Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Change your story, change your life. What lies are you telling to yourself right now, today, right now in your head, behind the scenes, stuff that only you and you alone know, that's hurting your chances of getting where you want to be, of getting where you know you're supposed to be? Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, Salt Strong Unchurched here, and this one's called Change Your Story, Change Your Life, because I'm going to share a personal story of something I struggled with for quite some time as I started up Salt Strong, where I honestly just kind of full of some insecurities and things in the past that in the back of my head, like, oh man, maybe I'm not built for this. Maybe, I shouldn't be CEO of this company. And maybe, maybe this just wasn't meant to be. Maybe I should replace myself and someone else should do this. And it was a fear and like I said, lack of confidence and insecurities. And we all have that. And so I think when you can change your story, you can change your life. And really, it's all about just stop sabotaging yourself. Stop sabotaging God's big plans for you with self-doubt and negative talk. And this also has to do with just, giving up too early and just settling with defeat because someone said something about you on social media or even a family member. So many times family members are the ones that might say, oh, you're crazy for doing this, or this will never work. And one of my favorite stories is from Think and Grow Rich. It's a book. I read it every single year for well over a decade. I'm guessing I've read it probably 15 times, and now I just have it on the Audible and I can listen to it. But Think and Grow Rich, it's one of the top-selling books of all time, Napoleon Hill, and it's all about honestly using your head, right, to both get out of ruts and to find prosperity and to be close with God and really just to be the best version of yourself. It's not all about just making money in terms of the word rich. And there was a story about Mr. Harvey, I believe his name is, and at the time, this guy Harvey had gold fever, if you will. This is back in the day when everyone's rushing over to the West, to dig for gold. And, he finds this area and he finds this vein of gold, just like many of us, where we start something new. It doesn't have to be your own company, but you start something new, whether it be a passion project or a hobby or giving back, or is it starting your own company or even a new job, or now you got promoted to the next level. And all of a sudden things kind of go well and there's all this excitement. And this guy, Harvey, he actually finds gold. They actually get some gold. So it goes back and goes back home and, gets some investors, invest some money into equipment. And they go back and they just start digging. They get a little bit more. And all of a sudden it stops. And, people are now starting to kind of doubt him. He's starting to doubt himself, and they keep digging and digging. And they can't find any more gold. And so he's literally wasted all this time. He's wasted money. His now family is ticked off at him. Basically, if you read the whole full story, that the family is basically calling him an idiot. Hey, you wasted our money. Come back home. This was a bad idea. You just found one little small vein. And so he did. And so this other prospector nearby, finds out what's happening, that Harvey's basically quit and he's going back home with his head in between his legs. And the prospector hires an engineer to check this out. And so this prospector bought this stuff at pennies on the dollar, that all this nice equipment Harvey had invested in, has the land now where this gold vein had basically died and stopped producing gold, hires an engineer, and the engineer says, you know what, this is just a fault line, stuff that most people in the digging business for gold now and even oil know about. And he says, you just need to go 3 feet over and you're going to find the vein. And the guy did, ended up producing millions and millions of dollars. And I don't know the exact amount, but basically this guy was just 3 feet. Mr. Harvey was just 3 feet. He was almost there. He did all the hard stuff. And because he let some negative thoughts and self-doubt sabotage everything, he ended up giving up. And this old prospector found all the gold and made the millions of dollars. But there's a good part to this story. So when Harvey goes back, he finally discovers what happened, and that he basically just walked away from millions of dollars because he was just 3 feet away. He gave up too early from self-doubt and just listening to people that said you need to give up. And so he says, I'm going to make a promise to myself to never give up. And he ended up becoming an insurance salesman and actually broke like every record out there because he refused to give up. He says, I'm not even going to let a customer who says this is not a fit for me, tell me no. I'm just going to keep, if I got a good product, I'm going to keep putting it in front of their face and keep selling it, keep selling it, keep selling it, and never give up again. And that was kind of his mantra. It was this negative thing that happened to him that ended up being fuel for him to continue to grow and to do some really amazing things, and even to make a book that we're still talking about 100 years later. So I'm going to talk about another little story here that just killed me with an old friend back in Georgia, and she had lost her dad, and that's devastating for anyone who's had to go through that. That's not something that's easy at all. But here's where it got bad. There's obviously some mourning and suffering that's 100% natural. You're almost odd if you don't suffer and get emotional and have a season of mourning. But if a season turns into a year and 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, and I'm talking about like full on still depressed and thinking about this and overeating and blaming all this stuff on the loss of her dad, I just wanted to kind of shake her and say, like, get out of it. Do you really think, if you believe in heaven, and I know she did and does, I haven't talked to her in many, many years, but if you believe in heaven and you believe your dad's up there, do you think he's smiling down on you knowing that you're in suffering? Do you think this makes him happy? Do you think this makes God happy? You're one of his children. You're his child on both respects there. Do you think they love seeing their children depressed and overeating and blaming all of this stuff and depression on them? Of course not. They want you to thrive. They want you to maybe use some of that suffering and some of that pain to do bigger things, to take your life to a new level. And so many people do that. And the overall gist of this is, what stories have happened to you in the past? The Darby thing could have gone either way. This guy could have been someone Harvey that we've never heard of before, but he decided to use that story to fuel him. I did the same thing with Salt Strong. My brother and I did really well in the financial services industry. It was all I knew. I mean, straight out of college, I was in financial services and we did really well. I mean, I published books. We had a great company. We had great people. I was respected. And all of a sudden, we left that to pursue Salt Strong, to pursue something in fishing. We felt like we were called to do it. Now I know that we were. But at the time, we just felt like we were called to do it. And the first 6 months was super exciting. Probably like Harvey, probably like a lot of people that follow some dream or trying something new. And then all of a sudden, it kind of got tough, and it got real tough, and we started self-doubting ourselves, and to the point that I didn't know if we were going to make it or not. I know a year into it, we had just continued just to lose money. We still hadn't paid ourselves a penny. We were just burning through money to keep this idea, this dream alive, and it got to the point where I had to go back and look at our old agreement. And I even had conversations, a couple of them, with people in the old industry because I had this self-doubt in my head that, I'm not good enough to do this. This is a new industry that I don't know. It's foreign to me. And, I go to ICAST and no one even wants to talk to us. And this is all true. Like that first year was brutal. No one would even give us the time of day. And it was tough. I mean, it was, I don't want to say depressing because I never got to that level, but it was just, there was many evenings where I would cry and I'm like, man, what did I get myself into? And what did I put my family into? What am I going to put them through? And what did I put my brother Luke into? Because this was, end of the day, kind of my vision and my idea and a lot of my energy going into it and money. And next level, like it took me 3 years, maybe even 4 before I even put CEO behind my name. I had this self-doubt, maybe I'm not good enough to run a company. Maybe I'm not good enough to be CEO of a fishing company. Maybe we need to go hire someone else. And we even looked at one point to kind of hire someone else to run the company. I'm so glad it didn't work out and that we went the path we did. But that all took me changing my story. It took me putting a little comma behind my name /CEO and saying, you know what, God, I'm going to do this. I'm going to need your help. I'm praying for some vision from you. I'm praying for some guidance. I'm praying for you to move some mountains on our behalf, but I can do this. So I want to ask you that question. What's that one thing that's holding you back? What's that story? Maybe something that happened in your path that's sabotaging God's big plans for you. What is it? Like, what is the thing that's just holding you back? What's that negative talk in the back of your head that you wish you could just erase? Well, I'm giving you permission to erase it. I'm telling you can. It's not easy. It wasn't easy for me. And there's been multiple instances in my past where, something was just riddling me in the back and just kind of holding me back, and just that self-doubt and the fear, even all the anxiety attacks I went through. I mean, all that was something in the past from just some kind of dumb fear. And it takes sometimes just taking a bold step forward and just declaring, I am going to do this, or I am this, and making it happen, and having the utmost faith that God's got your back and He is going to let you and enable you to be the best version of yourself. That doesn't mean that every single thing that you try is going to work out. We all know that, right? And I think maybe that holds some people back, is that fear of failure. But I'm telling you, and every single successful person you could ever meet or interview will tell you it's the failures that have really turned them into the people they are. I was really, really lucky to join this mastermind group. I've talked about it in my book, Fishing for Happiness. I've mentioned it here on the podcast a couple of times, and it's called War Room. So this is prior to the C12, was kind of the Christian version of that, but War Room was a really, really neat thing. It was from people all over the world, and they would only take 100 companies at any given time, and we would go meet once a quarter somewhere, usually in America. A couple times they went abroad. And so you got 100, business people, and we were the small guy in there. Like I said, they had to kind of make an exception just because we had a unique story of leaving the financial services and starting an online fishing club. So we were the small guy in there, and I'm sitting at tables and having lunch and dinner with some of these CEOs, who are running, companies that are doing $500 million a year. I mean, big companies, some that you've probably done business with and heard of. And what was really interesting is, I went in there super intimidated. I had the same stinking mindset that I don't belong here, and these guys are better than me, and, I'll never be able to do this kind of stuff. And if I could just, be a fraction of what these people are. Have you ever said that about yourself? Looking at someone else or something? I know I have. And yet I said all that stuff going into it. And now here I am with these, what I would call giants. And guess what I realized? They're all just like you and me. Every one of them had self-doubt. Every one of them had something in the back of their head that they didn't feel qualified for. Every one of them. It was really, really interesting. And I kept hearing stuff. I think some people like at our table breaking down, crying, saying like, I'm just not qualified. I'm burnt out and I don't know how to do this. And these are guys and gals who run $100 million companies. And yet they had the same fears and they had the same self-doubt. But what was also interesting is almost all of them were able to talk themselves out of it. They were all able to change their story. I thought it was so fascinating. And every one of them, it seemed to have some kind of history of something bad that happened where they lost their mom or lost their dad or grew up homeless. There's multiple people that grew up homeless. And you've heard stories of people like Oprah Winfrey and some of these people that came from nothing and now the whole world knows who they are. And it was because they changed their story. Their story could have been, my mom and dad were into drugs and in and out of jail, and so that's probably going to be what I do. And certainly it could be if that's what you choose, but why not change your story? Oh, yeah, my mom or dad, they weren't around, or my dad was an alcoholic, so that's probably what I'm going to be, and I'll probably just be, working minimum wage my whole life like he or she did. Why not change that story? I don't think God put you on this earth. I know God did not put you on this earth to be mediocre and to do just what your parents did. That's crazy. Otherwise, he wouldn't need you for that. Your parents were already doing that at a mediocre job. If that's the case, if that's what one of your things is, because it seems to be something I hear over and over again from people who are just struggling. This is the family I grew up in. Don't let that define you. It's great if you were born in a great family like I was, very, very blessed, but I still don't want it to define me either way. I want to go and make up my own path and not let anything in the past, whether it be something I did or something that happened in my family or anything in the history, slow me down. And, if we want to experience the new things that God has got prepared for us, we've just got to let go of that past. That's really what it comes down to. It's stop focusing on all the stuff in the past. Stop focusing on things that you've lost. Stop focusing on things that you've screwed up in the past and focus on what's left. Focus on the time you have left in this world. I think that's one of the worst things that any of us could do, is just to stay focused on the past. Or if someone did us wrong, or, this happened, or I screwed up here, I stumbled here, I look like an idiot here, people laughed at me. Let it go. Focus on what's left. There are so many blessings in our life. I continue to see it every time that I push myself into uncomfortable situations, whether it be public speaking. This whole podcast thing, super uncomfortable. It might sound natural that I can talk here for 15, 20 minutes. I was scared to death. I talked about doing this for a year before I finally did it. And that's why even the first, 20 episodes of Unchurched, I had to have a guest. I'm just throwing myself on the bus. I was scared to death to get in front of a microphone and just talk to you. Right? And here it is. Now it just seems natural because I stood out and I said, God, just lead me, speak through me, talk through me, talk to whoever I'm speaking with right now, to you. Just like we're friends. And now it seems natural. And now I get excited about doing it. Now I'm having just a blast doing it. But had I just, had that self-doubt, I screwed up that one time and I had this complete dead silence from crying, which I've done on a couple podcasts, I never would be here today. So I'm telling you, whatever it is, there's something right now, if you're listening still today, that's holding you back. There is some lie that you're telling yourself right now that you need to get over. That you need to let the past be the past. You've got to change your story to change your life. As I was going into this, God has so many blessings for you waiting. Think of it just like a big old fat wallet. He's got all these blessings that he's just ready to hand over to you. Not monetary, but just to think of it that way. And he's not going to give it to you unless you're willing to get rid of the past and focus on the future. I know because it's happened to me time and time again. All of my blessings, all of my riches, and I'm not talking about money. I'm just talking about overall health and fulfillment and happiness and a happy family where we're getting along. All of it's happened when I got out of my comfort zone and I started trusting God and I started changing my story. Change your story. It doesn't matter where you grew up, what your background is, where you came from, if you went to high school, if you went to college, if you've never even stepped foot in a classroom, you can change your own story. You can take bold leaps of faith. You can sit there and pray every morning and just start writing out your dreams. We talked about it before in the past. It's kind of the foundation of all of it is your mission, your purpose. Start writing it out and then start living it. The only reason you haven't lived it yet is because you've been making excuses. I know, because that's what I did. Like I said, you wouldn't even be hearing my voice right now if I had gone down that path of letting self-doubt and fear and insecurity tell me that I wasn't good enough to do Salt Strong. It would have just bombed a couple years into it, and we would have gone back to what we were doing and just gone back to our little comfortable lifestyle. And I would have regretted it. Maybe like you have a regret in your back of your head of, man, I wish I just would have done that. Don't do that. Don't live with any regrets. If you hear or get to talk to anyone who's on their deathbed or towards the end of their life, they will all tell you, do what you dream about doing. Do not let fear overtake you. Do not let insecurities get in the way of your dreams, of doing what you love to do, of what truly makes you happy. So that's it, guys. Change your story. Change your life. I'd love to hear from you. If any of this hit home, if any of this was just boom, gut-wrenching what you needed to hear, I'd love to hear from you. Joe at Saltstrong is my email. I promise to read every email. I try to return every single one. Sometimes it takes me a while because some of these podcasts, I get a lot of emails. But Joe at Saltstrong.com, I never share any of that stuff. It's all 100% confidential. And I'd love to hear from you and any other topics as well that maybe you're interested in or struggling with, or maybe it's something I talked about in the past, or maybe it's this one. You just want me to go a little bit deeper on it, or any more stories that could help out. I'd love to hear from you because I truly do enjoy this. And now I have more fun just talking into the mic and pretending I'm having a one-on-one conversation with you right now, just sitting here in my office, sitting here just having a little chat. It's become fun. And that's all because I changed my story. I stopped letting fear get in the way, and I said, I'm just going to do it, even if I stumble and fall, even if I look like an idiot, or even if I end up crying on a podcast. I'm just going to do it and let God take the wheel and have some fun. Life's too short not to do otherwise. Love you guys. Talk to you on the next episode.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. peace on the water if there was a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today, for he's the reason why we are this way. And he put fishing in our souls to stay.